At my brother's extravagant birthday celebration, my family openly insisted I surrender my penthouse to him. When I stood my ground, my mother struck me in front of the guests. That evening, I decided on a retribution that would quiet them for good. Hey, Reddit. My brother's 35th birthday party was meant to be just another draining family event, where I'd force a grin, bury my resentment, and count down the moments until I could leave. But what unfolded that night didn't just wound me. It obliterated every belief I had about family bonds, dignity, and affection. It culminated with my mother slapping me in front of 30 onlookers, and the entire family publicly demanding I give my penthouse to my jobless brother. I left that night labeled the antagonist. Yet deep inside, I felt a freedom I hadn't known in years. Let me start from the start. I'm 31, single by choice, fiercely self-reliant, and successful in a way that unsettled my family. I was the first to attend university. I didn't stop there. I earned an MBA, founded a tech company in my late 20s, and sold it 2 years ago for a 7-figure sum. With that, I purchased my dream home. A high-end penthouse with towering windows, a rooftop terrace, and a private lift. More than a residence, it was evidence of my independent success. My parents never really got me. They accepted my drive only when I was covering their expenses. When I funded my older brother David's second rehab stint, they sighed in relief. But when I began setting limits, they called me self-centered, and haughty David, their cherished son, was the worst. 4 years older, yet somehow still the family's baby. He had a string of failed projects, a juice van, a crypto vlog, a self-help podcast, despite never keeping a job for over 6 months. My parents financed every flop. Once I helped out, a mistake. They took it as permission to demand more. So when the invite came for David's birthday, a grand event at a fancy downtown steakhouse hosted by my parents, I sensed a setup. They'd never done anything like this for me. I RSVP'd out of duty but braced myself. I arrived in a sharp black dress, holding a $500 bottle of rare whiskey from Japan, knowing David would feign appreciation. As I entered, conversations halted. My mother flashed a stiff, insincere smile. My uncle muttered to his wife, their glances suggesting I was a problem waiting to erupt. I took my seat at a long banquet table, surrounded by relatives who barely noticed me. David sat at the head, surrounded by flatterers, distant kin, and his latest girlfriend, who seemed ready for a TV audition. Something felt staged, like I was part of a scripted drama. Dinner started, and the toasts poured in. My cousin Jess lauded David's tenacity. Dad hailed him as a dreamer. Mom, Terry, thanked everyone for supporting David's path, calling him the family's soul. I sat quietly, sipping wine, waiting for the ambush. It came soon enough. As dessert, gold-dusted chocolate cake was served. Dad stood, clinking his glass. "We're not just here for David's birthday," he said, staring at me, "but to back his fresh start. He's driven, focused, with a plan. And you, dear, are key to it." The room froze, every gaze fixed on me. "It's time you hand over your penthouse," he said. I laughed briefly, thinking it was a jest. It wasn't. Mom chimed in, her tone practiced and icy. "You live there alone. That space could boost David. He needs an office, a creative hub. We all agree this is how family supports each other." My blood chilled. David grinned smugly, as if accepting a prize. I said no firmly, instantly. "No, I'm not giving David my penthouse." Silence crashed down, thick and stifling. Dad called me selfish. My uncle sneered, questioning why I needed so much space. My cousin said it'd be temporary, just a year or two to help David stand up. I stood, voice sharp, eyes burning. "I'm not surrendering my home because David won't grow up. I earned that penthouse. I didn't luck into it or fail my way there. I worked 16-hour days. Where were you when I skipped holidays for deadlines?" Then came the eruption. Mom stood, strode toward me, and before I could react, slap. A sharp sting across my face. Gasps echoed. A few rose, stunned. A waiter paused, unsure if security was needed. "You ungrateful child," she hissed. "After all this family's done, you can't make one sacrifice?" My cheeks stung, my ears buzzed, but my mind was clear. I looked at David. He shrugged, unbothered. "That's fine," I said softly, "but don't contact me again. Any of you." I walked out, heels clicking, head high, face burning. No one followed. No one apologized. To them, I was the betrayer. To me, they'd shown their true selves. That night, I didn't weep or call friends. I didn't soothe my cheek. I went home, sat in my penthouse, poured a strong drink, and opened my laptop. I contacted my attorney, then a private investigator. They tried to shame me into submission. Now they'd see what happens when you corner someone with nothing to lose. The next morning, the bruise on my cheek had faded, but my resolve burned bright. My family hadn't just humiliated me, they'd declared war. And I'd dismantle their delusional world. I wasn't raised to fight openly. My parents worked in shadows with guilt, whispers, and manipulation cloaked as tradition. But they'd shamed me publicly now, struck me before our kin. So I wouldn't fight quietly either. First, I called my lawyer, not just for protection, but for leverage. I had her pull every deed, trust, shared account, or asset I'd ever touched. I wasn't just keeping my penthouse. I was drawing a legal wall between me and them, visible from miles away. Then I called Grace, a private investigator I'd used when a business partner tried to steal from my startup. She was sharp, thorough, ruthless. I need everything on my brother and parents, I said. Business deals, loans, assets, shady transactions, lies, all of it. She didn't pry, just said, give me a few days. While she worked, I played the emotional game. I contacted the few relatives I thought weren't fully complicit. Cousin Vanessa, Aunt Leela, even Uncle Raj, who'd whispered at the party but seemed conflicted. I didn't plead. I told them plainly what happened. The slap wasn't just anger, it was punishment for refusing to give up what I'd earned. Some were appalled. I had no clue it was that serious, Vanessa said, voice trembling. I thought the penthouse talk was a playful jab. It was never a jest, I said. It was a scheme. And I'm done being polite. Then I went bolder. I invited the whole family, yes, even my parents and David, to a reconciliation dinner at my penthouse the next weekend. The message was kind, warm. I want to clear the air, I wrote. Let's celebrate David properly and be a family again. The trap was set. Saturday arrived. My penthouse gleamed like a showroom, sleek, minimalist, with a regal dining setup and soft classical music. I catered David's favorites, Korean ribs, saffron rice, and that absurd truffle mac and cheese he'd raved about online. Guests arrived slowly. My parents came together, fake smiles plastered on. David strolled in late with his girlfriend, her red dress making a bold statement. There was laughter, stiff hugs, surface-level chatter. But I wasn't playing their game when dinner ended in dessert. A refined chocolate torte with gold leaf, echoing that birthday cake, was served. I stood. Thank you all for coming, I said. I know our last gathering was tense. Tonight I'm giving you the honesty you've always asked of me. I clicked a remote and the living room shades lowered. The large screen glowed. Emails, bank transfers. Shell companies in David's name, funded by my parents. Debt notices. Screenshots of David's texts to friends, boasting about manipulating our parents. Recordings Grace uncovered, one of David vowing to claim my penthouse as his trophy. And the clincher, tax fraud. My father had used my name on an old investment property without my permission. The room went silent. Mom stood, trembling. This is libel, she snapped. You're tearing your family apart. I'm revealing the truth, I countered. You demanded my penthouse. Now let's discuss what you've taken from me behind my back for years. David's face paled. His girlfriend slipped on her heels, muttered, I'm not part of this, and left. Dad was speechless, his signature glaring on the fraudulent document in sharp PDF clarity. You didn't just strike me, I said. You tried to rob me, gaslight me, treat me like a bank. And shamed me when I stopped giving. No one spoke after that, just stunned silence. But I wasn't finished. I've already started legal action, I said. From Monday, all shared accounts and assets I've contributed to will be frozen until ownership is settled. And yes, I've filed charges for identity fraud. I don't care that you're my father. My mother gasped as if she'd been hit this time. Then I opened the balcony doors. If you don't like it, leave. This isn't your platform anymore. They left one by one. My father mute, my mother sobbing into her jewelry. David trailing like a man watching his imagined kingdom collapse. Only Aunt Leela and Vanessa stayed, helping me clean, saying they were proud. When they left, I poured a drink from that same whiskey bottle I'd brought to David's party. I stood on the balcony, city lights gleaming like quiet cheers below. That penthouse, I didn't just keep it, I protected it, made it untouchable. And I ensured those who tried to shame me would never hold power over me again.